So thank you all for coming out. Thank you to Bellata and the NKVA and New Amsterdam Kitchens, the accreditation. I also wanted to thank our sponsors for today, Ceramic Tiles of Italy, the Italian Trade Commission, the Ministry of Economic Development, and also Novita Communications for inviting me to speak. And usually there's some of them sprinkled in the audience, so when I have in-depth questions about tiles, I'm kind of talking to them. But they're all actually at Coverings, the trade show in Las Vegas for the week. So they're actually getting the scoop on sort of the next generation of trends as I present this. So today I'm just going to click through the requisite slides to get to the beginning, learning objectives, which hopefully I will have covered in the presentation. But really today I'm talking about tile trends. And I sort of offer the caveat when I talk about trends because it's not like fashion where the trends change every 2 or 3 or 4 or 6 months. With tile, if you've heard me speak before, you've heard someone speak about sort of the trends the last 2 or 3 years. The stories are kind of the same. They're just continuing to evolve. So for instance, we're seeing more and more large format tiles. These are kind of 3 meter by 1 meter tiles, more thin tiles, 3 millimeters thin. But we're also seeing more small tiles as well. So really kind of the big story that's happening right now is a wider variety of tile formats, shapes, sizes, and materials that are being offered. So it's a really exciting time to be talking about tile and to be showing you some of the trends. That said, there are some of the things that have come out of really the big push for the Italians is Cersei, the trade show that happens in September, October in Bologna. And that's where all the new product comes out. So a lot of what I'm presenting here are some of the big exciting things that came out this year at the show. And indeed, there are some micro trends, but sort of the bigger story is both sort of the technologies that are being enhanced, sort of a continued refinement in terms of the realism of the stone-like and the wood-like looks that have become quite classic, but also sort of designers and manufacturers pushing the artistry of tile. So we're seeing tiles that don't look like tile per se. They either look like other materials or they just sort of look like a whole new category of material, which is sort of exciting. So without further ado, some of the things I'll be talking about today is sort of my rough outline. I'll kind of click through it. Designer labels, we're seeing more big name designers, product designers, architects, interior designers from outside the world of tile, designing tiles for manufacturers. And this is kind of exciting because these are people who've been specifying tile in the past and they know what they need and what's kind of interesting. So it's more of these outsiders coming to the world of tile and sort of pushing the boundaries a little bit. Design fluidity indoors and out. More and more collections are being offered that allow for indoor and outdoor applications. So kind of you can have a seamless continuity between an interior space and exterior space, which is great for lobbies, but it's also great for a living area or bedroom and an adjacent patio to kind of create this like smooth monolithic look. Natural inspirations, as I mentioned before, wood-like and stone-like looks remain very classic and popular. Rendered in ceramic and porcelain. So you get the look of a wood floor, but you can use it in a kitchen or bathroom. I'll show you some of that throughout the presentation. Pattern play and new geometrics, these are sort of two trends that intersect. We're seeing a lot more patterning within the tile itself, but we're also seeing tiles that are designed to be installed in sort of interesting, innovative patterns, almost carpet-like underfoot, or to create bold accent walls and sort of wallpaper-ish looks. This year, these are sort of two trends that I've seen this year. More painterly looks, tiles with even almost like kind of a watercolor washiness to them. So the color is really, it almost looks like the walls are painted. But also tone on tone is a big story where we're seeing more kind of textures within a monochromatic tile or very, very subtle decorations. We'll kind of get to that towards the end. Almost these kind of like ghost-like traces of patterning, which are a really nice option because for really the last 3 or 4 years, we've been seeing these very exuberant wallpaper-like looks. Now, so the technology and the artistry is being kind of funneled into creating a lot more subtlety, which I think in the end is what more people specify. We all get kind of blown away by the exciting, bold graphics, but in the end, the white tiles are still one of the most popular or very subtle coloration. So it's exciting that there's more options within that category. I'm going to sort of walk through some spatial possibilities for kitchens and baths. A lot of what I'm showing are, some of them are computer renderings, but really instead of talking about trends that are happening, I want to talk a little bit more about what the next generation or this current generation of tiles allows us to do in kitchens and baths. And lastly, I'll talk about technological innovations and sustainability. So without further ado, we're going to talk about designer labels. I'll click you through a few of the exciting stories that have happened coming out of Chersai. Again, more big name architects and designers who haven't worked in tile, working in tile. This is by Raw Edges, which is a UK-based studio. I don't know their work, but they are big in kind of furniture and product design. Two young designers. And this is sort of an origami, it has sort of an origami folded quality to it. It's really beautiful. I know it might be a little hard to see the slide. A lot of the things I'm showing are very kind of subtle textures and white on white, so I hope that you can see it okay. But this to me is really beautiful, and no one's done anything like this before. So this is sort of evidence of the kinds of designs that we're seeing, both very innovative and interesting, but also quite subtle and practical too. This is the same manufacturer, Mutina, and this is a Japanese designer. I'm going to not pronounce his name right unless I actually look at my notes. Takujin Yoshioka, and it's called Phenomenon. And again, it's this very, very subtle texture, these little facets kind of in a hexagonal shape, really lovely. And also a third collaboration that Mutina launched this year is with Patricia Fiola, who, as many of you know, is one of the top product designers coming out of, she's based in Milan. And for this is actually her second collection from the manufacturer, and that's another exciting story that I'm seeing is designers who aren't just doing these one-off collaborations with manufacturers, but they're really partnering with them to do more than one collection. And the great thing about that is they get to know the manufacturer and their capabilities. They know what is possible to do in the factory. So the second collection, they're able to sort of push the technology even more than in the first collection. So it's exciting that we're starting to see sort of designs that are both more designy but also more high tech. What I love about this is these surface textures. This is one of the trends that I'm seeing is much more kind of subtle variegation in the tile surface. And these are inspired by sort of textiles and netting effects. So at the same time you have texture, it's also ceramic tile that's inherently cleanable. I think these are all through body. I believe they're through body porcelain, so they're sturdy as anything out there too, while being quite artistic. Marcel Wanders is another designer who's working on his second collection with Bardelli. This is, I think it's actually being launched right now either at Coverings or this spring. He did a collection with them last year, kind of similar sort of these ornate patterns in a square tile format. This is actually, hold on, do I have this collection from last year here? No, I think I took it out. But it's sort of a similar ornate effect, and so he's kind of continuing to work with them to sort of push the artistry. This is Leia. It's called, I believe this is Waves, Patrick Nourget, a French designer. And it's a large format porcelain with these kind of very subtle geometries to create sort of like an ombre effect on the wall. This is another one by Leia, and what's interesting about this is it's kind of this mosaic of these triangular shapes that combine to create all these different optical effects. But these are made out of the super thin porcelains I was talking about a little earlier, and that some of you may be acquainted with, these 3mm thin tiles. And previously, to do these small formats, tiles tended to be a little thicker. So now these large format thin tiles are being kind of cut down to size, and they can be very precisely cut. I guess they're still laser cut, but it really lends itself well to creating these like crisp shapes. So I think we'll be seeing more of this moving forward. This is the Marcel Wanders. This is his first collection for Bardelli. So it has a very like wallpapery, carpety look, which is quite beautiful on the walls. And this is Massimiliano Adami, and it's the Terra Viva collection. He played off the idea of cracks in the floor. So it's these kind of smooth tiles with these little rivulets of color that run through, also quite beautiful. This is Wire by Tegina, and it's a full ceramic system. In addition to sort of being a beautiful stone-like look with these kind of subtle textures, again, in some of the tiles, what he did was create a whole ceramic system of tiles that could be used indoors and outdoors, and addresses difficult applications, corners, also sort of drains for exterior sort of patios and sidewalk applications too. So this is a very comprehensive suite of tiles where you can have the same look but kind of run it everywhere. And we're seeing more and more manufacturers who are doing this, creating these very large collections that can be used anywhere and everywhere. So design fluidity indoors and out, kind of following up to that last collection I just presented. We're seeing more of this kind of application, tiles that can be run from inside to outside. It's a slightly different tile for the exterior. It has more traction than the interior application, but it creates this very seamless look. So as you can see, when you throw open the door to a living room adjacent to a patio, it really extends the space and makes the space seem like it continues indoors and out. So it's really wonderful, especially in warmer climates. Not in New York, I don't think you have too many indoor-outdoor applications, but you know, certainly beachside, it's quite a nice effect. But even if you are, you know, if you have a glass wall and you can't use your terrace more than 2 months a year, it's sort of nice to have this, this sort of effect of the interior space expanding out. And we see it, you know, primarily in these stone-like looks, but also we're seeing more of the wood-like, kind of plank-like tiles being carried outside as well. So natural inspirations. Stone-like and the wood-like tiles are still big news. Stone, the faux stones have been classic for a long time. Obviously, so is real stone. But we're sort of at a point now where the printing technologies are getting so sophisticated. It's sort of like over my head how they all work. But we now have glazes that kind of penetrate into the tile body so that these, the effects of veins and graining kind of continues through. So it's not just like a surface application glaze on the tile, but it continues into the body of the tile itself. So you have these stone-like looks, but over time, as the surface, you know, inevitably wears down, the pattern continues all the way through. So while we've had stone-like looks for a long time, that's probably sort of the first ceramic and porcelain trend, they're just getting so lifelike. You really have to kind of like crawl on the floor to know that they're porcelain or ceramic and not actual stone. This particular collection has kind of a glossy sheen to it, but I'm seeing much more of a focus towards matte finishes. I think that's just a trend that people seem to like in their own, certainly in their own homes. And now the sort of technology again kind of allows for matte textures, but also cleanability, whereas in the past, you know, sort of a matte finish wasn't as easy to clean as a glossier surface. So again, the glaze is one attribute of these tiles, but also with the molding process, they're able to achieve these very sort of subtle cracked effects, again, to create a more lifelike look in stone. I don't know, it's a little hard to see it, but you also see, you can see kind of like the faceting of the slate that they can achieve now. But also these really kind of subtle effects. And this is sort of a more matte finish, which I personally love. This kind of monolithic look underfoot. So again, these tiles are now, we're starting to see them come out of the kitchen and bathroom and talking about that for a little while now. But I'm finally at a point where I'm seeing more tile being used in bedroom applications, particularly like bedrooms using the same tile into the master bathroom. A lot of living areas and dining rooms. Again, often dining rooms that are connected to a kitchen can run the same tile from the kitchen into the dining area. And these more subtle, real stone-like looks help achieve those spaces. Concrete and metal are still big news. I think a few years ago, we were seeing more kind of like shiny, glossy, like assertive faux metals. Same with concrete. And now the trend is to very quiet, subtle effects, which I think, again, makes them look more lifelike. It's less about manufacturers trying to assert, hey, we're creating a porcelain ceramic tile that looks like metal. And it's a little bit more about trying to achieve a very realistic concrete or metal look. I'm seeing a lot of the concretes being installed, too, probably more so than metals. Metal seems to be a hot look for commercial installations, but in terms of residential spaces, I see many more of the faux concrete tiles. And wood-like is a category that remains, it's sort of, more manufacturers are creating these wood-like looks in different formats and kind of these elongated planks. They really look like wood. And we're at this point where like the graining is, there's such verisimilitude in both the graining, kind of the surface texture to the latest collection. And also a wider variety of wood stains are available. This is comb, this is a collection that they have, these elongated planks. But you can see the subtle variation in color that they're offering. We're seeing more rich browns, but also gray is a color I'm seeing more of in the wood-like tiles. Also multi-hued. This is a little bit more